More and more people every single day are being funded by the Paycheck Protection Program and sending me messages, which I'm absolutely humbled and grateful about, saying they wouldn't have applied if it wasn't for my videos and content. It's literally heartwarming whenever I receive any of these messages. But the fight is not quite over because certain other people are still getting stuck in the application process, getting various error codes like secondary lender review or stuck in lender funding or just any other issue that they're running into. So the fight is not over, and I wanted to address those various error codes, where those applications stand right now, and that way we can have a realistic expectation as to what to expect here. Are you going to get funding in 2 days, or is it going to be 20 days? I'm not here to promise anything crazy. We're here to have some realistic expectations and actually dig into what's going on. Now, on my channel, many people who watch this channel applied through Womply, so this is going to be kind of Womply specific as far as the application process goes, but a lot of the SBA guidance and the error codes doesn't really matter who exactly you applied through. Also, if you haven't applied yet, you still want to apply as soon as possible because we've learned above all else, this can easily take 10 to 35 days for the entire application to go through. So you really just want to apply as soon as possible. If you need a lender, I have one linked in the description below that I've been working very closely with, and a lot of my content directly applies to their application process. So you'll have a wealth of information to go off of. So the first thing I want you to do is log into your Womply application. It should look something like this. And we can see here, this is a very, very common code that we're seeing. However, there could be about 10 or so different status updates here. If you're curious what your status update means, I've made a video on that as well, but that I will link above so you know exactly where you stand. We can see here with the secondary lender review, this application is undergoing a secondary review by the lender. This may indicate that a problem was reported by the SBA. Well, what does that even mean? A problem? Is this a fixable problem? Is this a big problem, small problem? What does this mean? But the first thing I want you to do is make sure all of these have green checks. If there's anything missing here, make sure you fill that in. If they're requesting additional bank account information, make sure you upload that. If they're requesting a full tax return, make sure you upload that as well, because that's going to just help your application process. Now, if we go over to the top 3 issues you can avoid, the first one is stuck in Womply processing. This happens when there's an issue with your tax documents in most cases. So common issues here are you uploaded the wrong tax document, maybe it's the wrong year, maybe it's the wrong format, it needs to be in PDF format, maybe your tax ID or your social security number isn't at the top of that. That's one that a buddy of mine actually ran into. They uploaded it and they're like, what's going on here? And there was actually X's instead of their actual social security number on the top. So make sure you check for that. It could be a situation where you just haven't uploaded the additional requested information. Certain people are getting requests like, hey, upload a bank statement, upload your full tax return instead of just the Schedule C. So that's why you want to log in and double check that. Basically, logging into your account would resolve like 50% of the questions that I see, because you can take a lot of actions there. You can re-trigger your DocuSign. You can do a lot of things in there. So click through that and become familiar with it if you're kind of wondering what exactly is going on. But if your social security number on your application is wrong, but your tax documents are right, you can actually fix that as well, which is kind of a common issue here. I wouldn't worry about it if you're not sure, but if you need to fix it, you can go to update application after you log in and then update basic or tax information, and you should be able to change your social security number there. The second issue is stuck in lender secondary review, which this one is beginning more and more popular, that people are kind of stuck here and they're not sure how long they have to wait. So we kind of have some good news and some bad news here. So this happens when the application was flagged by the SBA. That could mean like 40 different things. So that's why it's a little bit confusing, but it's probably because you have a duplicate PPP loan. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you did something wrong, because a lot of people just simply applied at more than one lender. There's nothing wrong here, but what can happen is if the lenders get to the same process at the SBA at the same time, there can be some potential flags thrown, and this can put you in the bucket of applications that need another review and then unfortunately need a little bit more processing time because of that. Or it could be any other disqualifying factor, which we're going to cover a lot more factors in a second here. Now, what can you do about this? Unfortunately, all you can really do is wait at this time. The suggestion right now is to not apply through another lender, because you're just going to bog down that a little bit more most likely. So you kind of have to wait. The good news is the SBA is expected to release many of these hold codes automatically in the near future. So probably within the next couple of weeks, if we're being realistic here. I don't know what near future means exactly. And Womply will also start exploring ways to fix some of the hold codes with some of the information they have on hand. So a lot of the hold codes can be fixed simply with like a tax return, an ID, bank statement. There's various things for various hold codes. And then finally, stuck in lender funding. So lenders actually have 20 days to fund your loan. So if you're stuck in lender funding, it's kind of a non-issue because chances are it hasn't been 20 days yet. But I will say the average time, it says 5 days here, but I actually just recently read the average time is only 4.1 days right now between signing your promissory note and it's in lender funding and actually receiving the funding. But they can spend up to 20 days. However, you want to know that lenders have a big incentive to fund your loan as soon as possible because they don't get paid until you get paid. So there's an incentive there to pay as soon as possible. So your lender is trying to get you funded. So you don't have to worry about that. Lender funding is basically a non-issue. But to cover some more of the SBA error codes, we have this document that I wanted to cover as well, if I can scroll to the top here. And this has probably been the biggest issue with the Paycheck Protection Program since it started in the second round. Since it started, error codes have been extremely opaque. There's so many of them, and there's more than ever. So the problem here arose with the first round of Paycheck Protection funding. The first round, the SBA had an automatic process where your application was submitted to them, and it was pretty much approved or denied right there on the spot. But then there was a ton of fraud in the first time, people buying Lambos, buying Rolexes, getting away with it, and being all over the news plastered about rampant fraud in the Paycheck Protection Program. So they received a lot of flack and they had to change their process, and now it's much more rigorous and there's multiple checks along the way, but along with a much more rigorous system is much more delays. So that's why it's taking longer to process, and that's why there's certain people getting placed in buckets of loans that need additional reviews and additional action taken. And that's basically what the beginning of this page says here. I'll have it linked in the description if you want to read through the whole thing. This is also an important area I wanted to cover as to what happens when one of these error codes are thrown. When a lender submits a loan guarantee application, and an error code is thrown, basically the SBA system is saying, hey, there's an error here. The lender will have an opportunity to support resolution for that error code with supporting documentation. Now, in some cases, the lender will already have that documentation if it's your tax return or bank statement, things that you've already uploaded, but other cases they might not. And in certain cases, they might not even know what is needed because the SBA just is taking forever to respond to lenders. So there's this multi-levels of not very great communication because this program is still new. These systems are new. The software we're using is less than 2 months old. So patience is kind of all we can do in a lot of these situations. But once that is corrected, applications will automatically be submitted and then processed again. And we're hoping again that the SBA will just take away many of the error codes that are sitting there dormant, unfixed as of right now, because that's kind of the expectation, but we don't know when exactly that's going to happen. Now, here's some of the error codes that can be thrown: disqualifying criminal history, disqualifying bankruptcy, potential match to sanctions list, applicant potentially deceased. Are you alive? I don't know how you'd prove that. Maybe send them a video and I'm pretty sure there's a heartbeat. I don't know. Applicant tax ID discrepancy, applicant name discrepancy, disqualifying business formation date. You can see just various things with your entity are the potential issues. And if we scroll down here, we can see what documentation is required based on those codes. And it's very simple stuff like verification of your social security number. Okay, your social security card. Bank statements, tax returns. It's very simple things. Again, you can look through all of these if you're curious what exactly you might need. The problem is with how opaque these systems are, we don't really know which error code is on our application as of right now because of how the system is formatted. So it's a little bit ridiculous, but it seems like these things are being worked out right now. And the only thing that we can do, which is always unfortunate because I'm a person of action, I always want to take action to fix things, but the only thing that we can do, unfortunately, if you're running into that issue, is wait for more guidance for now. Now, you can periodically log in and check the status. If they request more documents, just make sure you upload those documents, and I will let you know as soon as there are additional updates to this issue. I promise you that. So I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a profitable day.